In yesterday's gospel, we heard of a tax collector who was bent over, beating his breast because he was mindful of how unworthy he was to be in the house of God, mindful of all of his sins, and he begged the Lord for mercy. Today, in our gospel, we have a woman who was also bent over, not because of sin, but because of some physical ailment. We don't know whether she had scoliosis or whether she had arthritis, but at any rate, for 18 years, she's bent over. As a result, she's not able to lift up her hands and lift up her head, look up to the heavens and praise God. As a result, she wasn't fully part of the community. When they would be praising God, she's all bent over. Jesus wanted her to truly be part of the community, to be able to pray like everyone else. Jesus wanted to give her a fullness of life. And so he simply declared that she was healed. He touched her, and she was able to stand up straight. She was able to praise God. Now you would think everyone who saw that would have been so happy for her, because the people of that time, unfortunately, believed that illnesses, especially long-term illnesses, were as a form of punishment from God. Now, we don't believe that today, but many of these people would have believed it. Even if she didn't believe it, the community would have, and therefore they would have judged her as somehow unclean. Jesus wanted to give her a new beginning in her life, wanted to make sure that she understood that she was whole, she was clean, she was pleasing to God. Now, everyone in that community would have been rejoicing, wouldn't you think? But sadly, here is the chief of the synagogue who is upset because he wants to protect the rules, the laws. He wants to make sure people are not doing things on the Sabbath. And he was thinking that this, the work of Jesus, was a work that should be done on other days. In their culture, you never address someone directly. So instead of directing his issue to Jesus, he directs it at the crowd and reprimands them, telling them, if you want to be cured, come on the other days, the 6 other days. Those are the days for work. He doesn't have the courage to say it right to Jesus. These people didn't do anything wrong, but he's correcting them because he can't be face to face with Jesus. And so Jesus calls them a hypocrite. He tells them that you untie your animals, you let them go out of the stall, out of the manger for feeding, for watering. Shouldn't this woman be set free on the Sabbath so she can feel fully alive? When Jesus says this, that chief of the synagogue and the others who would have been judging Jesus in the same way are truly humiliated. They don't know what to think anymore. But the crowd are rejoicing because they know that Jesus is not only going to do this wondrous act, but others. And he teaches in a new way. They are rejoicing. They are lifting up their heads and they are praising God. As we think about the story of the tax collector, that man was heavily burdened by his sins, stooped over because of his sins. In this story here, we have a woman who's stooped over because of a physical difficulty. But you and I, we know people who are bent over, burdened because of the difficulties of their lives. And I believe that Jesus is calling us today to be mindful of them, to be praying for them, and then to go beyond that, to touch them, as Jesus touched this woman, to touch them, whether it's physically or even over the phone, to be in touch with them and to let them know that you care about them, that things are going to be better because you are committing yourself to pray for them. I believe that's what Jesus wants us to do today. And it ties beautifully in with Paul's message to the Ephesians. Paul tells us that we need to be imitators of God. So here in our gospel, Jesus touches this woman and makes things so much better for her. I believe Jesus wants us to be his hands today, to touch the people in our lives that we know who are stooped down, burdened, who can't lift up their heads, can't lift up their hearts to the Lord because of the sadness in their lives. You and I, we could do something about that. We could be the hands of Jesus Christ to touch our brothers and sisters, to give them compassion, mercy, and love.